having a personal brand and encompassing that into service and in the pursuit of improving everyone around you by giving what you're meant to give. I think that is the greatest gift we could ever be given. And
I love that. To the Be You Brand podcast. I have a guest with me today that she is a dear friend, but she's not here because she's a dear friend. She's here because she is brilliant. And like we were actually talking about this outside of camera, and I was like, come on. You're amazing. She is so good at doing all the back-end stuff. And she has changed so much since I met her until today. You really are a testament of like growth and personal growth, like professional growth. So welcome, Kristen Day, to the Be Brand podcast.
Thank you, Auntie. I promise I will not get choked up on this conversation. And I have to say, you're a big part of that. Honestly, you inspire me every day. And I can't tell you how much I just appreciate having you in my sphere, because it is such a blessing and truly it keeps me going. I think of you almost every day. So.
I actually love that, because we're going to be talking about scaling your personal brand without ruining your life, right? Without like going crazy, working a million hours, all of that. But I think that one of the things you and me, we have in common is this like building relationships and networking and really truly following up on our people, right? The people that actually we feel are our people.
I couldn't agree more. It is a cornerstone of our business, but it's also just a cornerstone of having a really fulfilling and happy life, because I get to hang out with my friends all day.
Well, but also business is fucking hard. So if we are not like you and me, we have had so many hard conversations this week with all the love, right? And that is what we need as business owners.
And to have someone that you can trust in that space, right? I think like having you to confide in and having you to like be honest with me about some changes that I need to make, or vice versa.
And vice versa.
It is really, to have that coming from a place of love, I think is invaluable.
I think it's so cool. So I'm going to actually introduce you formally. I'm going to like read your bio before we dive into, I think, super important. Like literally, this is something that it's happening right now in my business, you guys. So like as you scale and as you get busier, like there is just more work, right? And having systems, which is what Kristen is amazing about, it's really your saving grace. So I'm going to introduce you and then we're going to go from there. So Kristen Day is a back-end tech expert who helps service-based entrepreneurs scale their business to multiple six figures with ease by fixing their funnels and optimizing their systems so that they can stay in their zone of genius to create more influence, impact, and income. I love it. It's so amazing. So, Kristen, can you tell me a little bit about your story? Because you started, your genius started as a web designer. So can you tell me a little bit of your story and how we get fast forward, right, to here, where you're helping some huge businesses at this point, like multiple 6 and 7 figures, to actually fix their systems, fix their funnels, and like, how was your story?
Yeah, and thank you so much for that invitation to tell it, because I do think where we come from and versus where we are is sometimes very different, but it's so important to understand the beginnings. So when I started my business, I was just working on web design. I pretty accidentally fell into business, if that's possible. I was helping a few people here and there, and they basically told me, you should start a business. And so I did. I wasn't sure where it was going to go. I had no idea what I was doing, like most entrepreneurs when they first start their business. But I had a lot of experience in my corporate career in the back end. So working in email marketing, working in websites, working with ads, just anything that you could think of on the back end of a business. I had a lot of experience in that.
You were working at an agency, correct? Your corporate job was in like a marketing agency.
That's right. And I was a kind of a jack of all trades because my position wasn't fixed. I essentially was utilized as the helper to all of the departments. So I got a lot of broad expertise just by having the opportunity to work at that company, which I will always be grateful for. And when I moved into entrepreneurship, I really liked web design and I thought it was fun. Not a lot of people knew how to do it. And when the differentiator that I had when I was working with my clients as an entrepreneur was I would teach them everything they needed to know about the back end of their website. And that was very uncommon, but it really was how I was able to build a business, was being able to be transparent and not being afraid to give away the answer. Because
you were empowering your clients to actually then take over, or not if they didn't want to, but you were empowering them, which goes back to what you're truly doing right now too.
Yes. So as I moved through the years, I think it's important to say I offered a lot of services. When I first started my business, I offered web design and social media, graphics. I have no business being in graphics, by the way, you guys. And I offered strategy. I offered ads. I offered SEO, right? Like anything that I had learned how to do, I offered in my product suite. And it was because I was trying to serve everyone.
Yeah. Well, and which is crazy. This is like for the people that are watching the video, this is great. But for the people that are listening to the podcast, you see me like, because I see this happen. This is like usually the beginning, right? Like that you have such a skill set. That doesn't mean you have to use every single one of your skill sets.
That is correct. Highly encourage you to try to figure out like which one you enjoy the most. But when I started out for the first several years, actually, I was just offering everything to everyone. And eventually it really led to a lot of strife for me because I was overloaded. I was doing too many different things. I had too many different client profiles. I probably have served, I think the last time I counted was 25 different individual industries.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So trying to like swap your brain from, a jewelry line to a construction company to it was too much.
Yeah, it's almost like you're never, even though you were an expert at building the websites, you never get to be an expert at that one thing that you're doing. And I actually explain this to people all the time, but it takes time to actually commit to that narrowing down, which is narrowing down your client or your industry, whatever, not necessarily has to be just the niche. So I don't want to kind of like put it in those words, but like narrowing down exactly what it is that you want to do and who you want to serve. But like, I feel like, okay, can you tell me how was that evolution from being like, okay, I need to start taking things on my plate, and then how you move from that to what you're doing right now, which you can even go and explain specifically what it is, because I don't know, if the listeners or the viewers actually understand at this point yet.
Sure. So what I was doing then was basically just offering that really broad service suite to everyone. When I really started to understand that that was not profitable, that was driving my life crazy, I started to narrow down who I was working with. I increased my fees, which actually bumped out a lot of my clients, which was a blessing. And I was able to start cutting out some of those services as well. And when I did that, I realized that there was a very specific set of entrepreneurs that I really enjoyed working with, who really enjoyed working with me too. And that I was able to fix very specific problems in their business. And that had to do with my skill set, but it actually had nothing to do with what I was offering. I was offering web design and social media strategy and all of the things that you
knew how to do, but you were not really offering the things that, number one, and you're gonna name them one, but like number one are usually the biggest headaches once you actually start making money. And the other one is a skill set that people do not have. Somebody can actually kind of wing, having like a middle of the range website on their own. But when we talk about funnels and like having systems that are repeatable, that are working without you, and they save you so much time, and I actually make you money, right? I don't know how to do that. That's why you're helping me, right?
Yeah, I started to transition. I started to notice that what I was offering, it wasn't the problem. It wasn't what I was actually doing. What I was actually doing is I was going into these businesses and I was seeing the gaps in their funnels, and I was fixing those gaps. I was filling them in. I was making their structure much more fluid. We were really trying to improve the customer journey or improve the automations inside of their business so that they could stop focusing on manual processes, on not having a plan in place when they went to launch or when they needed to follow up with customers, right? If they're freebie sequences, a freebie is a free resource that you put your email in and you receive that free resource into your inbox, right? There's a process to that. Yeah. And an example is when you have a free resource that you're building your business with, but you don't have a thank you page or something like that, so yes, I was working on the back end, and yes, I was doing web design and social media and all of that stuff. What I was really doing was fixing those funnels and optimizing them and automating them. And that's how I transitioned into what I do now, which is much more fun.
Well, actually, I want to point something out because our audience is pretty broad, right? From people that they're just starting their business and people that are actually advanced. And one of the things that we talk all the time, you, me, I talk it with my clients, I see it in my own journey, is at the beginning, you have one client, but as you evolve and your business evolves, your client evolves with you. So what I'm hearing is you used to work with some of these beginner clients, right? That they needed help with their social media, they needed help with their website, but then now they grew, or you grew, right? And now you're working with people that are scaling. That's literally my journey, right? Because I talk so much about like being scrappy and don't needing to have all these systems to actually launch or go all in. But I'm experiencing this on my business too, where there is what brought you here is not going to take you there, right? And there is a moment when these systems actually are needed. And I think this brings us to the cracks of what we are going to talk today, which is actually scaling your personal brand and your business without ruining your life. Because there is at some point, and me, I have zero problem sharing transparency, is there is a moment where you have so much on your plate because you're still doing things manually, or because you don't even know what other things you could automate or what things you can bring to the plate and how you can bring more leads, how you can serve them in a better way automatically. Right. So there is this journey where the first few years you're fine, like be scrappy, do it all on your own. But there is a moment, and if you're in there, you're going to want to hear this really closely. And if you're not there, you want to prepare yourself for understanding the concept of what brought you here is not going to get you there. So let's talk a little bit about that scaling your personal brand and business without ruining your personal life. Like, what does that mean to you? And where does somebody starts with all of that?
Something that you and I actually talked about last week that I thought was genius was you said it's never too early to start preparing your business for growth.
Yeah.
That I just got chills. Like, that sentence is the truth. It doesn't matter where you are in business right now, you cannot start doing these things too early. So
what it's really interesting about that is because, I do a lot of reflecting, and I've been actually working with clients that are pretty ahead. So I have my academy, and then I do these VIP days. And like the people that come on my VIP days, usually they're advanced business owners that at the beginning, they did kind of the same than me. We got scrappy, we did the thing. But when we are in the first few years of business, a lot of the times we're like, I don't have the money. We're coming from a place of a scarcity. I can't invest. Maybe you invested in a coach, but you're like, I'm not going to invest in funnels, right? And I get it, because sometimes you're coming, from job to business. But if I could say something to me 5 years ago, is invest in the systems, actually bring in somebody is like, hey, what is your vision? But the thing is, sometimes that vision is not clear either. So so hard, right? But I was just talking to somebody yesterday. She was throwing all these offers out there because obviously she has to make money. But I'm like, does this make sense long term? Is this truly what you actually left corporate? If she was an executive in corporate to actually do? Right. And she's like, well, no. And I'm like, then it's not worth your time.
Yeah. What do these systems mean to me? So whether you are a 5-figure business owner, a 6-figure business owner, 7-figure business owner, you can implement these steps. So I want everyone to hear that right now. But I think it is especially important if you are scaling into the 6-figure and multiple 6-figure space. It means having a clear and understandable process. And I'll give you an example. So when you are offering a free resource, we'll go back to that example because it's a really easy one to understand.
Well, and we teach that inside of our academy. So I'm really curious. My people can totally relate to that.
Yeah. When you have a free resource that you are using to build your email list, you need an understandable process that is repeatable, whether you're doing it, whether a VA is doing it, whether your tech person is doing it. It should be clear, it should be understandable, and it should not be overly complicated, right?
Can you give an example? An example?
Yeah. So you have this free resource and you have the PDF, right? So you're going to provide this PDF in an email. So someone's going to visit your website. They're going to put in their name and email. That email is going to go on to your backend and into your email list. And then you should have something that triggers an email to get sent to their inbox and deliver that freebie. And then there should be a series of things that happen afterwards, a follow-up email,
Absolutely.
Anything like that, right?
Yeah.
No matter what stage of business you're in, you need to be able to understand how that happens. Because if you hire someone and you don't know how it happens, what happens if you need to change that? What happens if it's outdated? What happens if it is going to the wrong audience or, whatever, right?
I love these because I personally feel so spoken to, right? Like I built my first business in photography and I had an email list and we didn't even have like a email newsletter, but I was building my email list. And then when I pivoted and my business exploded, there was nothing. When I hired Kayla, who's my assistant, we didn't have anything in place. I literally had to walk her through every single thing. Like she was shadowing me and she didn't have any reference. And it was so painful. And I was already on the 6 figures. I was so embarrassed. It took us so much time. And I think I would love for you to speak to that concept of, because this is all about not ruining your life, right? Because then you get to this bottleneck where you are the bottleneck.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like what you're talking about is also, it happens such at the beginning in business, but it keeps repeating itself as you have a new system, a new process, a new lead magnet, a new offer, whatever it is.
Yes. And so what I encourage people to do, there's several ways to do this. And I'm gonna note some really great totally free resources. Loom is one free resource. Love Loom. What this system does is it allows you to record videos of what you are doing. And the free version is a little limiting, but it does the job, you guys. It is fantastic. And then Scribe How is another completely free resource. And what it does is it literally provides step-by-step instructions based on what you're doing. It runs in the background. It is absolutely a game changer when you are bringing on someone who you need to train. But it also helps you stay focused. I want you to think about, if you're a brand new business owner or if you're a scaling business owner, how many things do you do in one day?
That, and how many things you do that maybe you do today, but you don't do again for like, I don't know, like a month or something. And you forget.
You just forget because your brain is doing 100 things every hour. And just having that reminder, having that ability to reference back to that, if you start doing that now and keep it organized, it will save you hours and hours of time.
And I'm going to tell you, one of the things that you really enlightened me was, we were talking about the emails, right, last week for my own business. And it does not need to be complicated. You can do a Google Doc. Right. Actually, I talked about this with my coach this morning. She was like, I want you to write. It sounds dumb, but like when you are preparing for the podcast today, every single step that you're doing. So then you have a checklist, right? Even I got in the thing with you and I was like, oh my God, I have to remember all the things, right? Like the mic, and we're going live here. And then I'm going to have to save it over there. I'm like, okay, let me write it down.
Yes. And write it down, whether you're doing, let's say you're in a launch. I do this a lot with my clients. I actually go through, and as we're building the funnels, I'm documenting that funnel. So I have a client right now who just went through a challenge for the very first time. They'd never done it before. And they have a team of 4. And we literally documented, and for everybody whose eyes just glazed over about the word documentation or SOPs or whatever, I want you to think about this. You only do those things every so often. Mm-hmm. And how many times does one little thing get forgotten? And there's a slip up, and how that impacts your client's experience, especially if you're launching. So if you're a business that goes through like quarterly launches or what have you, when you're going through the launch and you just
having checklist,
the hour,
that was life-changing for us.
Yeah. And it does not have to be complicated. That's absolutely correct.
I kind of want to bring it back because to the fact that you guys, if you're starting a business, you're already in business and you're making money, you're going to be an entrepreneur for the rest of your life. You're going to be running this business possibly forever, right? In different iterations of this business. And one of the things that like it's been dawning on me is like, sometimes we don't want to take 4 hours to document or things, or 4 hours to figure something out. But then we're like agonizing over it for months and months and months. And how much is this costing you, right? Like and the reason why I wanted to actually talk about systems is because I was super resistant forever. Guys, I'm an Enneagram 7 manifesting generator. Give me the fun. I just want to talk to people, right? But then Kristen comes and is like, okay, let's look at your systems. I'm like, what? What? So I get it, right? So we talked a lot about that super easy email piece, freebie, because honestly, you guys, if you're in business, you need to be growing your email list. I'm going to tell you right now, you don't own your social media. You do own your, and hello, right? From somebody that is on social media all the time, but you need to move people from social media to your email list in case something happens. So this is like early on your journey. I'm talking on the first year, you should start building an email list. Right? What are other systems? Because you talk about funnels, tell me a little bit about that. Like what are people in different stages should be looking at?
In different stages of business?
Yeah.
I echo the email list. If you're in the first year of your business, building your email list and your community should be number one priority. Adding value to your community and being able to really speak to them, even if your offer is going to change, even if your messaging is going to change. It's just putting yourself out there, being scrappy, and really kind of going for it, right? But that email list is absolutely, it's called a customer relations management system. It's a CRM. It's mandatory. It's non-negotiable.
Well, you're a business. You're a business. If you want to be a business, you need to be a business.
Yeah. So in the very beginning stages, that 100% non-negotiable. And then as you move into the area where you get to know remember, when I started in business, I had 100 offers, and then as I grew, I really started to solidify what I really wanted to do and the impact that I could make in the best way. And things that you need in that stage of your business really are these SOPs. An SOP is a standard operating procedure, and it has to do with that documentation, right? Simple things, you guys, making sure to have where everything is located, right? Where is your website located? Where is your domain located? Where is your CRM? Where do you have Zapier, right? Like, what are all of the systems that you are using? Keep them centrally located so that when you bring on a team member, when you need to find something, you're not pulling your hair out, you know where it is, and it's easily accessible. That also allows you to make changes on the fly.
I was going to say something that for me was key when we talk about the emails was actually systematizing and having the emails, all the emails. So kind of like, right, like literally on a piece of paper, and then you can put in a Google Doc. Okay, when my client first comes in, we have this email. Then we do the intake form. I actually have one client going through beta clients right now. So she can have all those things in place. And I'm like, they don't need to be complicated. You can do it through Gmail, but you can have them email 1, email 2, email 3, email 4. And then when you actually can afford something like Honeybook or Dubsado or whatever, then you can automate it, and I'm sure that Gmail actually has the capability somehow of doing that. I just don't know how to do it. But I'm like, you cannot be writing every single email. I did it for a while. When I did photography, every email was from scratch. Everything was done different every single way, every single time. And it was a disaster for me, not for my clients.
Yeah. And it just takes so much time. So when we do, it's called an email sequence. So what that is when you're sending, again, you have an onboarding sequence, is like more than 1 or 2 emails. You have a freebie sequence, right? Where they get like tons of messaging. I always recommend this because as your business grows, your systems are going to grow. And it's so imperative to keep everything organized so that you can make that pivot when you need to. This will save you time as well. Let's say you start off on a Flowdesk or a MailChimp or what have you, and you do have these sequences. Write those emails down on a Google Doc, because
well, guys, I'm just going through this, and I can't even tell you. This is crazy.
What happens is, if you start with these emails on a Google Doc, you'll have them when you need to change email platforms. And trust me, you will change.
Which again, okay, let's actually go back to that, because what brought you here. So for example, I tell my clients to start with Flowdesk. It's easy, it's pretty, it's intuitive, but you're not going to be there forever. It was great for the last 10 years, but we're actually going through the change into a big girl email, like, active campaign and stuff like that. And you will change. Oh my God,
you will change. Your systems will change. The better you keep track of these things, the easier and less time consuming it will be. Because think about this, instead of clicking into every single email that you've sent in these sequences and copying it from one system to the other, how much easier would it be to have one document pulled up and have a VA or yourself or your assistant or whomever going straight down the list on one Word document to one new system? It will save you hours of time.
Oh my God. Yes.
And then I think one thing I would like to note for people who are scaling into that six-figure plus, a system that is actually quite often missed is going to be your sales system.
Ooh.
So when you're scaling into that space, normally people have a little bit more of a sales team. And so we often we have all of our marketing items systematized because we're used to that and we have been selling on our own. However, when you move into that six-figure plus area, generally speaking, you have at least one sales member, maybe two. You need to start systematizing them as well, because you're going to go through different iterations of your sales team. And it's not just your marketing that is going to eat up your time. Your sales team and their processes are also going to be a training opportunity, right? Every time you bring on a new salesperson. So salespeople need to be onboarded. They need to be familiar with the tech stack that your business has. They need to be, familiar with how you sell into your launches or your affiliates or however your sales process works.
Well, and one thing that I'm going to add to that, even before that, one of the things that it was so life-changing for me was having even written down, okay, how are people finding me? This is top of the funnel. And this doesn't even need to be a digital funnel. This is this is you in your mind, understanding how you're actually getting your client. Where do they go? What do they get? What is their experience? And then when it gets to that consultation or whatever it is, if you don't have an automation to sell through email or whatever, okay, what happens? So are you sending them a reminder, right? Like that, those things were life-changing for me, for people not showing up on consultations, for example, at the beginning of my business. Having people would forget, people didn't take it seriously because there was not a professional system. And a lot of those things are free.
Yes. And there's no barrier. And that's why I loved what you said. And I want to call it back, because most people will say all these automations and all of this system stuff is so expensive. It's so hard. That is something that we have to change our mindset around, to understand that to be and to grow successfully, this type of work doesn't have to be expensive. It can be time consuming, but the return on investment of that time will not only make you more money than you could ever dream of, because you will have a customer experience that creates raving fans, and it compounds itself. But at the end of the day, you will go to sleep and you will not worry about having to write individual emails or did my payment processor go through, or just the mental space that having a good system in place takes off of your stress levels. It'll allow you to stay in your zone of genius, to be more energized, to really focus on what you love. I see this all the time with like a social media calendar. People are really resistant to a social media calendar because they're like, I just want to go with the flow.
I know. I don't even get me started. I kind of want to, I want to wrap it up, and I want to wrap up like the idea of none of us got into business to be chained to our freaking business. Now, while yes, it takes freaking work to grow your personal brand, to grow your business, I'm telling you from somebody, me, that resisted systems for so long, that systems will change your life. And you have to start early. You have to start early. You cannot underestimate the power of really making your life easier from day one.
And I would the last thing I want to say here is, if it's possible, I would try to fall in love with that process. And think of it this way: if you're resistant to systems, or you're like, oh, this just sounds so boring.
Sometimes I feel like people, more than boring, it's hard. They don't, I didn't even know. Sometimes you don't have the vision. I didn't actually have the actual vision. It was really super hard, still is sometimes, to actually have the vision of like, I'm going to do it like this. So the documenting part became key, because then I could go through something, do it, document it, break it down, and then be, okay, I just did this thing 3 times. Okay, I don't need to do that.
But I also want to note that when you do this, it's so incredible, because you get to visually see the improvement. You get to witness in real time the beautiful change that your business goes through, and it'll go through changes.
She says that because she loves systems and computers and tech. And I'm like, I just wanted to all work together.
But if you do this,
I mean, it's already like, you were like, hey, it's not all bad. I'm like, okay, good.
It's scary. Like, don't let us fool you. It can be really intimidating, but you can do it. Anyone can do these things.
But I think part of the scary is when you grew and you don't have anything in place. Now you have to document so much. But if you start early. Exactly. So Kristen, this is so amazing. I want to finish you with one question that I do all of my guests, which is, what does it mean to you to be your own brand, to be you brand?
Oh, wow.
I didn't prompt her.
She did not. You put me on the spot.
I mean, you can always answer later.
Yes. No. What does it mean to me? It means, I think it means really, I don't want to say like being given permission, but like giving yourself permission to embrace the gift that you were born to give to the world.
Whoa. Well, I through that growth, right?
Yeah. And really, truly accepting that you are here in this time for a reason, and it's not a coincidence, and it's not something that you have to just let life happen to you. Having a personal brand and being that, like, encompassing that into service, and in the pursuit of improving everyone around you by giving what you're meant to give. I think that is the greatest gift we could ever be given. And
I love that. I love that. I think so many of our listeners are in this journey, including us, right? Of like growth and really allowing ourselves to shine and to give and to actually come out thinking, yes, I have a gift. I am gifted in whatever it is that I am doing and make a difference in the world through our work. So that was amazing.
Thank you. Thanks for that question. That was a curveball.
I know. This was so amazing. Kristen, where can people find you? Where can people go hang out with you? Where can people see your brilliance?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you so much for having me. I've had such a blast. I've been looking forward to this all week. So you can hang out with me. You come hang out with me on Instagram. My handle is at the home grind. I love coffee. I'm a coffee nut. And then on LinkedIn, I'm always on LinkedIn. You can just search my name, Kristen Day, and I will be absolutely more than happy to connect with all of you. I would love to see you around. So yeah, thank you so much, Ati. This has been an absolute ball. I absolutely love seeing your beautiful face and hanging out with you, and you're always inspiring.
This was amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. Bye, you guys.